and welcome to Six Figure Signature Offers, the podcast for women in business who want to create brands that become the hot tamale of their industry and sold out scalable offers that bring home the bacon without burning them out. I'm your host, online business strategist Robin Birkin. I've gone from managing 8-figure marketing budgets and big teams to creating 2 multi-6-figure businesses in part-time hours by design. If you're ready to attract Cloud9 clients in droves, sell out your scalable offers, and not bring your laptop to the beach, then welcome, let's go. So 5 things have happened over the last, 2 months that are all related to AI and artificial intelligence, and I feel desperately called to speak to you about this and what your next steps are, because I feel like almost nobody else is talking about it in this context. So if you are someone who is marketing and selling services, and perhaps marketing, sales, advertising, promotions is not your vocation or expertise, or if you are someone who is currently in that AI curious space and you are wondering whether your next best investment is an AI tool, this episode is absolutely for you. And a quick spoiler, I use AI quite prolifically in my business, and as much as I would love to get on my high horse and say I don't use AI, the reality is that it would not be possible at this stage of my business to completely bounce out of AI. We use Descript to edit our podcast. I use Background Remover in Canva, which is an AI tool. I use Claude to put together a lot of spreadsheets for my clients. It audits my clients' webinars. It goes through and audits my clients' sales pages. It produces spreadsheets for me. So at this point in my business, it is not a question of not using AI. However, today's episode is a call to use AI consciously, as well as what I believe is going to be so much more valuable for you in terms of learning, efficiency, skills, and your future. So listen in if you are someone who is AI curious, because 5 things, like I said, have happened in the last couple of months, and I really want to speak to what is happening in the market right now and the experience of what I had, particularly when I have gone through 2 of the sales pages for my clients and what has worked to increase conversions on those sales pages. So let's dive in. Now, I spoke about 5 things that have happened. So let me give you the narrative. Number 1 is inside the mastermind, I am always looking at ways that I can support our clients to get things done in shorter periods of time. We lean heavily, and I promote heavily, automations in your business, ways to capture data, ways to automate tasks that you might not otherwise have the ability to do. Because by and large, everyone who I work with has the desire to not sit on calls all day, to work part-time, yet also to earn really great money. So as part of that, I have thought, how good would it be if I could essentially have this dashboard for my clients? They put in a few key details and then they click a button and all of their launch emails are done. And then they click a button and their sales page is written. And then they click a button and they've got a social media plan. Like, how good would that be? Because putting together webinar slides, writing a sales page, all of those things, recognizing that that is a time-intensive process. So arguably, if I want my clients to be able to save time, that's a logical next step to be able to support my clients with that and to almost see if I can get a USB from my brain into their business. So one of the things that I did was paid for a number of skills from people who I trust in the industry, people who I know spend a lot more time on AI than me, people who have made this into their niche and their expertise. And I downloaded a range of skills from different people. And these are people who have very highly successful businesses. And plugged in just to sample, number 1, I read some of their skills. Some of them were arguably not particularly detailed. One person in particular had exceptionally detailed skills, and I wanted to have a look at their skills, what they'd included inside there, what the reference files were, so that I could see the depth of what was included in these skills. And I was really disappointed, not in the care of what they had put in their skills, but two things. Number one, the amount of input that was still required from me at my end. It was along the lines of you potentially spending like 1 to 2 hours briefing the AI tool skill on your specific offer and this and that. And then number two, how poor the outcome still was. There was, even with me uploading, number one, briefing the AI fully on all of my details. And I also have a fully built out brand Bible. I have fully built out skills and projects that are specific and related to my products, my services, my goals, all of those things. Even with that full briefing, the results that I got, and this one was specific to, one was a lead magnet generator, the other was email and like a launch email thing. I got it to do one email and I was still so disappointed in what came back. Even though this person had put together such a great skill, even though I had put together such great outputs. And that was very disappointing. Then number three was that accidentally on my personal Instagram account, I accidentally reset my algorithm so that nearly every reel that I see now in my personal algorithm is related to AI and the future of AI. And one in particular that had me sort of stop in my tracks was a clip from an AI documentary that is just coming out. And the AI documentary is specifically about AI. And the person in the documentary, I can't remember his name, Scott, someone from something like the AI Humane Society, I'm going to get that wrong, saying that he knows many people who are like CEOs and senior people within the AI industry who completely don't expect their children to make it to high school. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? So which then spurred deep diving further into AI, understanding what is AI, understanding the goals, the financial risks and outputs of AI, and understanding some of the predictions of AI, which was quite frankly interesting, scary, and is now living rent-free in my brain because obviously everyone's on this roller coaster and nobody knows exactly what the future will hold. So that was number four. I'll speak a little bit more to the highlights of what I have learned. And then I implore you as a conscious consumer to go out and do your own research because I think that this is something that has massive ramifications for our lives moving forward. And I am a little bit jaded, perhaps is the right word, by the frivolity with which we are all using AI. And even, myself, I promoted a Claude skill almost as a test. It is something that we use. It is something that completely blows the mind of everyone who downloads and uses it. But it is something that, I had more mini chat comments, people DMing me, etc. than I have ever had. And I was like, I kind of predicted that would be the case. And I was like, everyone just wants the shortcut all the time, don't they? So I don't know if I felt happy that I had lots of people wanting to download and sign up to my email list, or whether I felt sad because everyone just always wants the shortcut. And the buzzword at the moment is things like Claude skills. And, every man and her dog seems to be pivoting into the AI industry at the moment. And I think there's almost a blindness to what is arguably actually the true ethics of artificial intelligence, not just safety. And then number 5 is that one of the things I have been doing lately for my clients is really deep diving into their sales pages. And by deep diving, I don't just mean a line by line audit, which is what I do, but I've been using AI to really go through sales pages at a deep level and formed a very, very strong belief about what I feel is the best way to use AI and why I believe that actually means not investing in AI, but investing your time and energy into something else entirely. So come on a journey with me. Let's have a chat about it. And if you have any thoughts, I don't care if you vehemently disagree with me or whether you're like, oh my God, that was a really eye-opening episode, anything at all, please come and reach out to me in the DMs because I am still malleable. My mind is like Play-Doh on this topic. I am still learning. I'm still figuring out what I think. And I would so love to have a conversation with you about your thoughts and how you feel about it, whether you feel like you're being left behind, whether you feel this sense of urgency, whether you feel like you want to be able to use AI consciously, or whether there were parts of what I'm about to say that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. That was really interesting. And I agree or disagree. I'd love to hear from you. So first things first is deep diving into AI and the predictions. And the second that you go down the rabbit hole of learning from former OpenAI and Claude employees, you will learn that there isn't, or even when you listen to the current CEOs of AI, there is a common narrative of fear-mongering. So I am so excited to tell you that the doors are currently open to Sold Out Signature. What is it? It's a 4-day live bootcamp with me in early September where together you will learn what sells in 2026. We will fully map out, design, and then sell a signature offer that is so magnetic and so irresistible, your clients cannot wait to pay you to get inside. If you would like to know more, the best place to find out is either in the show notes below, or if you come to my Instagram at Robin Birkin, you can get your ticket from there. I cannot wait to see you inside the challenge. Make sure you get your ticket ASAP. I'll see you inside. And amongst all of these executives, there is this belief that they openly share, that is that there is a 10 to 25%, that's massive, like 25%, that AI will lead literally to the end of the world and the extinction of the human race. Does that just blow your mind? And they are all racing to develop what they would call AGI, and I'll explain that in a moment, or even singularity. They're all racing to be the first to do it. And the narrative is that this is such a huge thing. This could lead to the end of humanity. And that's why it's so important that we are the first people to be able to achieve this. And that is obviously so important for their narrative and for their fundraising in this software. And because if they want the government to invest with them, if they want investors to invest with them, obviously that end of the world and the consequences and the fear-mongering of we need to be the first one to do this is so important. It's also important because in some respects, this is potentially why governments are not racing to regulate AI, is because there is this narrative that is being formed with key stakeholders of, well, we need to get there before China gets there. And or we also need to get there before someone in their backyard develops AGI or singularity and does it for nefarious purposes. So no one quite knows what they expect by human extinction. Like it could be that someone develops a megavirus, or it could be that singularity comes and then AI decides that humans are the cause of like all evil and just instantly like blinks out the lights. And this is all predicted to happen really quickly. So I would say by like 2030. So AGI is artificial general intelligence, and AGI is the point at which AI matches human intelligence. Singularity is essentially the point at which AI surpasses human intelligence, and it's so hard for any of us to fathom or imagine, but therefore has recursive self-improvement, and to the point where, let's say you have an iPhone and iPhones release the next model every year. Well, when AI systems have recursive self-improvement, the snowball effect is almost that it like happens every second. And no one quite 100% understands how scary is this, the mechanics of exactly how the neural networks work inside AI. So there is a technology already that they are testing, and they don't quite 100% know how it works. It generally works on patterns. So like, what is the most common word to come after this word, as an example? And what the AI companies are doing, which is why in many ways it is overhyped here, and why a lot of the time you might be like, I've just used Claude and it's just given me the biggest load of shit. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I going back 5 times just to get the dumbest thing? Just yesterday, I asked it to give me the weather in Perth, and it was like, oh, I can't do that. It's massively overhyped, right? But what is underhyped is that the AI companies right now, like, that's almost not their priority. The priority for AI companies is for the ability for the AI systems to be able to, I guess, recursively self-improve. Because once that happens, then it can improve and improve at the rate of a speed of light. The worry about that is that at that rate, does it become a runaway train that then makes decisions for us, that we then become almost like prisoners? And there is obviously the argument of robots and robotics, and whether robots will then like come into your house, that you will have robots preparing your food, etc. Anyway, will that happen? Won't it happen? I don't know. However, it's important to understand that fear mongering about AI creating the end of the world, we've got to get there before that guy gets there, this one's better, that one's better, this one's ethical, this one's not ethical, is all part of building the narrative of AI in order to have investment. And everyone is now talking about data centers. AI is wildly unprofitable, and I don't even fully understand this myself, but almost along the lines of like, and this is not any kind of maths, you pay like $100 a month for Claude, but what you pay at $100 a month for Claude actually is costing Claude like $8,000 a month. And when they're building these data centers are something like a $500 billion investment per data center. They're having to borrow wild amounts of money where they're not anywhere near profitable for what they're providing. And, which blows my mind as well, data centers only like last for something like 3 years. So it's a wildly unprofitable model. I do not understand it, but it is this race because arguably whoever in the world develops AI first in some respects becomes the superpower of the world. But then the concern is that if there is a system that is more intelligent than us, when have you ever known a more superior system, agent, species, whatever it is, to be subordinate to something that is less smart than it? I don't know. So there is this fear mongering that goes on. Is it wildly overhyped? Is this even going to happen? Who knows? Is this part of the narrative of the marketing of the AI companies in order to try and get more investment from governments? Again, we don't know. But the next one is also something that is perpetuated by everyone teaching AI, and that is, if you don't learn AI, you will get left behind. And so there is this fear that you will not be the top of the charts, like the top of the pops if you do not learn AI. There is a narrative that AI educators are using, which is that females need to use AI because if they're not, the patriarchy is, and this is how females are going to leave themselves behind. And there is also this concept of, look at my 30 AI employees, and if you don't have this, you're not doing anything, like anywhere near what is required for your business. So if you're like, what the fuck? Good. Stop right there. And the number one recommendation that I have for you today is to understand where AI companies and AI educators are using fear to potentially get you to buy into an industry that you may or may not actually need. So a lot of the time in my business, my general thought is that I actually don't need this. And do I actually need agents going in, doing all of these tasks for me if I want and have a very simple business? Number two, we are in 2026, an attention and a trust economy. We are also in a very mature market within almost all of online business. So if you want to get attention and build trust, and if you want your audience to choose you actively over the other person, that means that you need to build radical trust and you need to differentiate yourself from everyone else in the market. So there has been a Deloitte study that came out that showed that trust with a brand was radically diminished, and I'm talking by like more than 50%, when they believed that the brand was overly reliant on AI in their company. And this was when they perceived that a company was overly using AI for things like their content and their sales assets. So then the next thing that has happened with relation to AI, and then I'm going to bring it all home when I talk about this sales page review. The very next thing that happened is they've always had this prediction, and AI companies, again, have changed their narrative because to suit what they feel is going to be best for investment, for economy, etc. There was this radical, like futuristic prediction that very soon all jobs would be replaced by AI and robotics. And it hasn't come true yet. But one of the things that they used was this prediction that radiologists would become like a dead career. They encouraged everybody to, like, no one to go to university or college to become a radiologist because they were like, imminently radiology is going to be cancelled. And what they discovered is that actually there's more radiologists than ever. And one of the benefits of AI has been for radiologists to use AI to facilitate their expertise. So we know in this market that what has actually transpired in terms of unemployment is that there has been more unemployment for entry-level jobs. So graduate jobs, but they have still maintained and needed, just like in the radiology example, senior level positions, because the senior level person knows how to have critical thinking, knows what they are looking for, and has the expertise that can critique artificial intelligence, because we are not yet at a point of AGI, which is where artificial intelligence matches human intelligence. It just is a pattern recognition software, and what it does is find the average most common response and kind of matches along with that. So the biggest question that I have is, if we are still employing senior level people to be able to critique and use AI in order to get the best results, what happens in 10 years, 20 years, when all of the senior level people have retired and nobody has hired junior staff, and a human has trained them on exactly what to look for. And this is where my sales page audit comes into play. I've done multiple deep dives, sales page audits with my clients, and auditing clients' work, from webinars to sales pages to launch emails to all sorts of things, is part of what I provide to them inside the Peace and Profit Mastermind. Once a fortnight, you can submit something, you can submit it more than once, and I will go through in detail and really have a look at that and the conversion markers and metrics. What I have found so far to be true for clients who want to convert highly in their programs and services is that I am doing things in their sales pages. So one of my clients, for example, has taken her sales page from converting at 0.6% to converting at 3.5%. And when I have gone through her sales page and auditing her sales page, by and large, what we have done in that sales page would not match a paint by numbers sales page, which is the exact type of sales page that you would get from using something like AI. And in fact, I find AI marketing assets to be so poor. I am consistently underwhelmed by them, even when there are detailed skills involved. What I find it to be really great at is auditing my clients' sales pages. But like I just said, what we have done with a lot of these sales pages goes against what is the predictive pattern of the way that you would typically create and present a sales page. And every time I am going back and forth with the AI tool, the recurring thought that I have in my mind is, you are not paying me to cut the wire. You are paying me because I know what wire to cut. And so where you are looking at what it is that you want to invest in, I am not auditing my clients' work with a massive amount of AI knowledge. I know how to prompt really, really well in social media. I know how to then get a great sales page that uses all of my clients' branding, that looks really great, that meets great design principles. But by and large, I'm not using these complex systems where I've got agents doing 10,000 little robot tasks for me all over the place. But what I do works because I know what triggers to pull from a sales psychology perspective and from that deep understanding of human behavior. So let me give you a really tangible example of this. My client has an audience who are feeling extremely overwhelmed in their day-to-day life. And feeling overwhelmed is one of the things that would hold them back from joining this program. They do not want another thing on their plate. So when you look at a traditional sales page and we look at the traditional advice for a sales page, you are typically going to have that hero section at the top. And typically what you would have for something like an online course is you would have a mock-up of the product. And the reasoning behind why we would have a mock-up of the product is because we want to add some tangibility to the value of the product. We want to be like, this is what you get. This is a real product. It's not some vague, abstract, online something. So typically in a hero section, you would have a product mock-up on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of that page. But because her clients felt overwhelmed, we took that out and put an image of her. And therefore, what we are selling is proximity, answers, and a human expert being able to look at what you're doing and give you a really step-by-step and simple plan. So then also to that extent, we changed the biggest headline in that hero area to speak to that objection. again, it goes against standard advice, because typically what you would do is have the offer promise in that area. And that is only something that you can develop through understanding how, for example, sales page conversion works, or working with someone at a deep level to learn. So all in all, this is my call to action for you to, number one, opt out of any fear mongering. You will not get left behind by anything, and arguably you may save time because you are not doing redundant tasks in your business and you are staying focused on the actual goal at hand for you in your business, which may be actually to go out there and have some conversations and sell your offer, rather than sitting all day in this technology and being like, oh my God, I'm going to just sit and, knuckle down on this. I'm going to brief like 100 things into a skill that then produces garbage for me anyway, and I have to go and rewrite it myself. But also, when you are using AI, understand that if you do not know which wire to cut, so if you are a specialist and your specialty is coaching high-level executives on their leadership skills, it is a great investment of your time to be able to leverage your brain and then back and forth with AI to find patterns, to identify opportunities for your clients, to be able to reference things back to you, prepare summaries, increase your efficiency. However, if your expertise is not, for example, creating a sales page, and you just go into AI and you're like, create me a sales page, it's the blind leading the blind. Because AI is not smarter than a human being at this point. And you don't know if what AI is giving you is good or not, because you don't know, and you're likely not going to be receiving exactly what you need to be able to convert highly from the AI that you are using. So you should, instead of going down a rabbit hole of going back and forth constantly, knowing as well the environmental and very real socioeconomic impacts that AI is having, I encourage you to really leverage your own brain. AI has been shown to be actual brain rot. Leveraging your brain to learn which wire to cut. And if you do not know which wire to cut, read books, get a mentor, flex that muscle in your brain so that you become the person who stands out. You become the person who is not overly reliant on a tool which arguably at this point in time is not that great, and learn the skill that will be valuable come 2, 4, 10 years time, which is the skill of your brain, which is the skill of persuasion, and which is arguably the skill also of human connection rather than just learning prompting. That is my thoughts on AI. Stay tuned, because they're probably going to change in the next week. Our worlds are probably going to change in the next year or 2 years or 3 years. But I really want you to be conscious about your use of AI, and also be conscious about the benefits and the pros and cons of AI in relation to whether it is actually supporting you and your goals in your business, or whether it's just adding another thing to the to-do list with outputs that are not even that great. Thank you for listening, and I can't wait to speak to you next week. Bye for now.